Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season premiere of Falling Water. A great premiere. We immediately hit the ground running with a lot of things. Like aesthetically, a lot of stuff has changed, as well as just seeing the developments of seeing where the story kind of picks up. But obviously, I'll dive right into that. Once again, it's kind of something I brought up recently in a lot of stuff, because I don't know whether I just never noticed it before, but I've been noticing it a lot more recently. It's a whole 6-month period, because everything's skipping like 6 months in between seasons and stuff like this. The show seems to be no exception. So a lot of stuff is going down in that 6 months. Apparently, Burton's been working with the FBI to take down the firm and everything. Interestingly enough, we don't see the lady he was working for last season. We don't see her. The last time we saw her is when he was trying to set up that whole deal trying to get to James last season. That was like, what was that, like episode 12? I mean, God, episode 9. Ignore me. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So that was the last time we saw her. So either like in that 6-month period, maybe Burton, because he likes her, was like, yeah, you need to back out of this, because, you know, she didn't really know what was really going on. She thought it was just like, okay, we're making money. Had no idea it was all about, you know, trying to sell a child and everything. So he's trying to bring down the entire firm, which Woody kind of laughs in his face, because it's like, this is so much bigger than you realize. You really have no idea what you're actually doing. So there's that. Tess is hiding out with James. She's got the new name Violet. Also have James talking more, so that's weird. I wonder what made them decide to finally make that change. I guess now that, you know, he's with his mom again, you know, aesthetically, maybe it's just like, it's supposed to show the fact is that he's comfortable. He's back where he belongs, so he's being who he is. I don't know. It's just kind of, it's just interesting. I kind of would have expected him to kind of have kept him like silent forever, but you know, well, maybe the rest of the season will kind of dive into that more deeply. But she's hiding out. Burton is trying to do all this to take down the firm for all the stuff that they did trying to sell James. So I do like the fact is this isn't like Tess is just off on her own. It's like, no, she's still in contact with Burton and Taka, because Taka and Sabine are still together. So that's good. And we see that Taka is part of Homicide now. He's got a new partner, Alex, who's like, yeah, she's not really sure on Taka because of the whole aspect of the fact is of how he operates. It's like, oh, you got these like intuitions type of things. And, you know, most people told me to stay away from you, but just the whole, his way of handling things, especially now that he's more, especially after everything in the first season, all of them are a lot more comfortable with the ideas of their dreams and stuff. They have better understanding, knowing to listen and to follow them. So his methods are definitely going to be troublesome for her this season. So that's going to be, I think that's going to be an interesting thing. Because all of season 1, Taka was working by himself. Like obviously, you know, other officers pop up here and there, you know, but it was never like a consistent like partnership. So it's going to be interesting seeing that going forward this season, like having someone kind of watching your back and just like, you have to be more careful because, you know, he can't really say everything he wants to say because it's just going to make him sound crazy. You know, let's not forget he tried to explain it to Sabine last season, and she was like, you're crazy. So, you know, I mean, eventually until he showed her, and then it was like, oh, wow, now I kind of believe. So there's that. But in particular, a big focus this season seems to be about a main antagonist, which is kind of interesting. I mean, season 1 had its main antagonist. I guess arguably you could say that was Bill, but at the same time, it's just like there was all these other antagonists too. But it seems like in this season, they're focusing on there still being those outside antagonists, but one in particular in this season being the Shadow Man. It seems like basically he sneaks into people's dreams. Like the way James talks about it, James is like, I can see him, but he doesn't know I can see him. But he's angry at everybody. It's like what that's about, I don't know, because the show is hinted at many different things about there being a monster. Like we saw it at the beginning of the first season, that basically that thing that was kind of chained up, and then it kind of looked like the shadow kind of took on a more humanoid form. I was kind of interpreting maybe that was Bill, just because of what, you know, that's just how I always interpreted that. But like maybe that's the Shadow Man in this case. I mean, who's to say the Shadow Man isn't Bill just, you know, taking on a different form or something like that? I wonder what the whole like roach bug motif thing's about, because it seems like that's kind of his sign, and like just being covered in bugs and stuff like that. We still haven't gotten a clear look at his face, so it's probably just like messed up, kind of like how a lot of the green sneakers last season, at least particular Andy and some others, would walk around with their faces like messed up like that. I wonder why that is when you actually think about it, because the green sneakers at the end of season one, none of them had their faces like that. You saw all their faces. So maybe when they're trying to, I guess that was more of a discreet thing because Andy didn't want Tess to know it was him last season. So I guess that's why. But, so, I mean, cause at this point in time, we're still learning about what everyone is capable of. You know, we still don't have a clear cut picture of what it, like the bounds of possibilities, but to everyone's abilities, you know, so. Because a lot of this, obviously, first episode was kind of setting up a lot of stuff, setting up the story for the season, kind of picking up where a lot of season one left off. Because a lot of stuff we're still up in the air about in regards to a lot of that. The episode kind of hints at it, but the whole like situation with the lady from Burton's dreams. Because at the end of season one, she shows up with the green sneakers and she's smiling at the end at Burton, which kind of begs the question. I don't even remember what I said at the time, but it does beg the question now. Now in retrospect, it's like, well, does that mean that she was actually playing the entire time? Whereas he thought she was like being a captive, she was being a victim. That the fact of the matter is it was further manipulation because she actually works with the green sneakers. Is that what that's all about? Because especially how the episode ends with her pulling a gun on him, being like, oh, we need to talk. Because he hasn't subsequently seen her in that 6 months since then, is kind of what it's alluding to. So is she part of the green sneakers, or was she a plant from a different organization? Because there's so many groups. We don't know where White Sand is at. Like last time we saw them was in the season finale. So we haven't seen any hiding or hair of Roberts. The fact of the matter is Woody's still in the middle of different people because now he's also working for this mysterious lady played by Mary McCormick, which was like, oh my God, that's so cool. God, she's been in so many different things. The movie 1408. Probably another USA show in plain sight, which I'm not that familiar with. I mean, as I know the overall plot of it, you know, U.S. Marshals and stuff like that. Nevertheless, you know, just so that's kind of cool. And she's also on that AMC show Loaded, so I thought that's kind of interesting. But that was kind of cool. It's like, oh, you're, I'm assuming, kind of a bad guy in this. It does seem like she doesn't take part in this whole thing because when she's talking about Woody, she's like, your special abilities. And it's like, oh, so you're not part of that world. You know about it, you take advantage of it, but you're not like part of it yourself, which is kind of interesting. Because even Roberts was like part of the whole like Topeka situation. So, you know, I'm curious to see what her role is in all of this. Because it is something that was kind of brought up last season too. Is the fact is Woody's allegiances is all over the place, which I think we're probably going to see the consequences of that this season. Like you can't keep playing both or all sides forever. Eventually you're going to have to pick one. So I don't know. Is this because it seems like this might not be related to the firm, considering the fact is that it was only Woody in particular who was brought in. To be fair, I don't know, because there's a whole situation I'm still confused on, like how much the bosses know, like Nicholas, for example, like how much he really knows. I mean, it's kind of hinted at he knows, but he doesn't partake in anything like Woody. But to be fair, once again, she doesn't have ability, so Nicholas probably doesn't have the ability either. That's why Woody's kind of the ringer, because he can do what he does. So, I don't know. I'm curious to find it out, like, what that's all about. But like I was getting to, like, maybe the lady from his dream works for them, because it's like, oh, season one's like, oh, she's a journalist and everything, so it's like, maybe that's not the case. You know, maybe it was, like I said, once again, further manipulation from, like, Tess's mom, because she did a lot of that last season, a lot of lying and manipulating, which we didn't see hiding her hair of her this. I mean, this is literally just the first episode, so who's to say whether or not she'll pop up later on or not? And I brought them up, but we haven't seen anything with the green sneakers at all, so you know, I guess, you know, Tess and James are still in hiding, so because it's more of a worldwide organization rather than just like one specific spot. Like Anne Marie's group isn't just the only group. Remember, they're like a sale everywhere, so there's sales everywhere. So I'm kind of thinking that dude Mark might be one, because the way he's just creeping on Tess like that, he's like, oh, trying to talk to her and everything, and she keeps like shutting him down, and then like he shows up in front of her car. It's like, oh, I didn't know you're from New Jersey. It's like, oh, I'm just waiting here to say hi. It's like, that's super creepy. And she's even talking to the lady at the like restaurant she works at, and the lady's like, oh, he's fine. Yeah, they might come off a little strong. It's like, no, that's creepy. I really don't trust that dude one bit. But then to be fair, she's getting close to Jeremy, but who's to say Jeremy isn't a part of this whole situation too? I really like that fact is that she was having that sex dream about Jeremy, and then her son wakes, and then James wakes her up, and she's just like, what? And it's just like, that's gotta suck and be super awkward. But it does seem like the dreams are still there, kind of giving everyone their leads, because obviously Taka goes into his mom's dream and she shows him a staircase, which eventually leads him to a clue later on. Tess had a dream about someone in that little other section at the place she's staying at. She saw the light on and a shadow walk by the window. She walks out, and in her dream, a bunch of birds kind of shot out the window. So I'm thinking that's supposed to represent, well, I guess you could make the argument, you know, because a lot of it's up for interpretation. It's like, well, that was probably like representing the fact is that they got away. But I also took it as, well, that person was spying on her, sure, but they were trying to make it so that she wouldn't be able to recognize who they were, so they turned into birds to escape. I don't know. It does seem like there was someone physically there, not just in her dreams, but physically at their property, because she ends up seeing shoe prints on the floor. So we also ended up learning a little bit about Burton, his military things, because we saw like a military memory of his at the beginning, and the lady from his dreams is trying to tell him like, oh, he's kind of trapping himself in his own hell. So that was something that was never really brought up at all last season. Maybe it was mentioned, but I don't know. It wasn't shown or really mentioned that he had military experience. But obviously, I kind of skipped over it. I brought up Taka's new partner, Alex, but I didn't talk about the case in particular he's working on. It seems it's about this guy named Sam who murdered his wife, but he doesn't know why. Now, Alex is just kind of like, nah, let's put it to bed. But the fact of the matter is, Taka feels like there's more to it. And I like that the fact is, obviously, kind of bringing up what I brought up earlier about the whole, like, them still being kind of a tight-knit group. Like I said, I love that about shows. It's like, yeah, season one's all about the introduction, but further past that, it's like, oh, there's these bonds that are formed. And it's like, so Burton and Taka are working out together, and it's like they're kind of confiding in each other. And Burton's like, yeah, like, oh, you want to go into his dreams, but Taka's like, man, I can't do that. Like, last time me, you, and Tess did that, we barely got out. So there's that. So, but it's like, he looks at his abilities as a curse, but Burton's like, well, even if they are a curse, they were given to us for a reason, so why not take advantage and use them? So Taka does that, and he ends up seeing that the Shadow Man is the one that's manipulating and pushing people to do things, in this particular case, pushing Sam to kill his wife. Because in a dream, his wife is whipping their children, calling them pigs, saying they don't have children. And the only way he could stop her was by, killing her. And it's like the Shadow Man is kind of forcing him to do it. It's like, well, he's mad at everyone, but what is this all about? We're, like I said, first steps into the season, so we just going into this knowing nothing. But Taka also found a hole and when he found those stairs, so that means someone was watching that whole situation go down with Sam and his wife. So the question is, who? Obviously, in his dream, it was the Shadow Man, but maybe it was a Shadow Man in real life. It just obviously manifests himself as a Shadow Man, and once again, we don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. It's definitely going to be interesting this season too, with the whole situation with his mom. His mom's condition's getting worse, but the fact of the matter is Taka's just kind of in the middle on that. Like, he's sad and cares, but at the same time, it's like, well, after all the manipulation his mom put him through last season, like the whole situation with Sabine and James and Tess, it's like, he's not really, it's like, for him, it's like, my mom doesn't really care about me. All she cares about is getting what she wants. That's all she's ever cared about. So, because she's kind of going back to her more catatonic self. Even in the dreams, she won't even really acknowledge him. She showed him the steps, but that's it. She didn't really talk to him. So we'll see going forward whether or not there's anything to that. And that's just like the main plot. A lot of interesting things for me is aesthetics about the show. For one, a big aesthetic to me, and maybe this is my imagination, but the show seems brighter, like more vibrant. I don't know if that's just me or not. Like, not even just the dream worlds in particular, but like definitely like just everything in particular just seems brighter. I don't know, maybe that's just, more on the production side of things. They other aesthetic things I think is kind of interesting is the whole, they've kind of made it a lot clearer when you can say, oh, when someone's dreaming or when someone's awake in this. And I guess that could be just seen as many different things. Because obviously, like, that was a big part of season one. It's like, well, what do you know? How do you know what's a dream and what's reality? I guess that was kind of the whole point. Because anytime someone was waking up, more often than not, you see that close up of their eyes dilating or whatever, but it's like, it doesn't happen this season. Like, in certain regards, it happened with Woody, but I think it's a situation when you're like, in the moment, maybe that's just kind of something Woody can do, just kind of like immediately snapping you into a dream world. So maybe that's, that's kind of something just Woody can do. So the reason why it worked like that. But for them, it's like every time they go into the dream world, they sink into water. When they're waking up from the dream world, they come up. I mean, in particular, they show that with everyone, but definitely in particular, we saw it the most with Taka. So that was just kind of an interesting development to me. And I think like a justification for it, aesthetically, it could just be like, oh, we want to make it a lot more clear this season because we don't need it to be confusing. Or maybe it felt like, well, maybe it was too confusing last season. Now we're making it a lot more clear cut when everyone's awake and when they're dreaming, maybe. But another justification for that could easily be like, well, the fact of the matter is Taka, Tess, and Burton have a lot more control over their abilities, so they're not as lost and like wondering like, oh, am I awake or am I dreaming or not? So maybe that's what that's all supposed to kind of represent. Like it's representing the fact is that they can easily like fold into either world that they want to, So that was just something I immediately latched onto because I thought that was so fascinating. And also aesthetically how their dreams look too, like a lot of like the dream worlds in the first season were very obviously they're built on real places, but this season, like obviously when his mom was pointing to Taka to go up those steps, it was like a white room, and then when Taka was in Sam's dreams, like everything was kind of reddish. So it does seem like the dreams are very reflective. They were just all very because that once again maybe that's just aesthetically to help separate reality from dreams, but it seems like they're kind of going extra further with the whole dream because it seems that probably like this season we're probably going to see a lot more reality bending stuff. Obviously I keep making the comparison to Inception, but I mean it's like we're probably going like say see what people are able to do further beyond just dream, because like I said we saw with Woody, like he made like that cliff area, but it's like nothing has ever been done like that in like the first season. So it's just a little aesthetic things like that I'm finding fascinating too, and I'm interested to see them kind of like what they decide to kind of mess around with and do this season, just overarching with this as well as story. I didn't really touch on it too much, but I touched on it a little bit, but we still don't know what it is, the whole Sabine situation. She seems fine, but we still don't know what it is exactly they did to her last season when they took her. Especially because there was a whole conversation between Tess and Sabine. Sabine's like, oh, I never thought I'd be in a relationship. We're good. We're happy. And I'm like, yeah. I don't like the fact that they're bringing that up. That means something's going to go wrong. That's some heavy ass foreshadowing, I feel like, but maybe nothing will happen. We'll just kind of have to see. But that was always kind of a question. Like, what did they do to Sabine? Because it's like when she woke up at the end of season 1, it seemed like there was something not quite, right. So, and as I said, I think the Shadow Man might be Bill, but the fact of the matter is we haven't actually seen Bill, so he might be laying in wait, much like the Green Sneakers, to try and actually find Tess and James. So, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see. Like I said, I'm very excited to see what goes down in the next episode, as well as the rest of the season with what they've set up in this first episode. Especially because they've set up so much in the first episode, leaving you like, well, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? Which I felt like that so much during the first season. But now after subsequently rewatching the first season, I'm like, a lot of stuff made a lot more sense. There's some stuff I didn't catch. And I'm like, I'm such an idiot for not realizing it. It's like right there in front of you. How did I not catch that before? I mean, that's just me when it comes to this stuff in general. But nevertheless, I'm also curious to see this season too, because like especially season 1 set it up to be like make you realize just how powerful James is. Because the fact is, like in the season finale, it's like, yeah, I keep rewinding time. So the question is also like, will we get to see even more of what he's capable of? Especially, let's not forget, like he can bend time and space. So what that really means, we'll have to wait and see. So, but that's enough of me blabbering on and on. That's really all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good